working on the rest. Moreover, Russia hopes to build completely new weapons of war. Most military equipment in Russian arsenals today is legacy Soviet hardware. Russian bombers are no exception. Although some airframes in Russian inventories are quite old, they remain potent thanks to airframe, electronics and radar upgrades, along with improvements in standoff missiles and precision-guided munitions. Here are Russia's most dangerous bombers. Number 1. Tu-95 Bear. In 1950, Andrei Tupolev was tasked with designing the Soviet Union's new long-range heavy bomber, the Tu-95. It was to be able to carry a 24,200-pound payload with a range of nearly 5,000 miles and thus threaten important targets in the United States. Tupolev needed to balance speed and performance with range. Jet engines at the time would give a long-range strategic bomber the needed speed, but guzzled fuel, limiting range. Although Tupolev was already a highly successful designer, he tasked a group of German and Austrian aircraft engineers that had been captured after World War II with the design. They designed the most powerful turboprop engine ever made, the venerable KN-12. Using two sets of contra-rotating propellers, the KN-12 is still used on the Tu-95 today. Although the engines are extremely powerful, the air also incredibly loud. Still, when mission requirements are massive payload rather than stealthiness, the Bear can do the job. Repeated upgrades have greatly extended the airframe's service life, and increasingly sophisticated standoff cruise missiles have kept the Tu-95 potent. It is planned to operate until the 2040s. Number 2. Tu-22M Backfire. Sometimes called backfire by NATO, the Tu-22M variant was developed to address design deficiencies inherent in the Tu-22 parent design. The Tu-22M uses a variable sweep wing design that provided a balance between favorable landing and takeoff handling, with good cruising and high-speed flight. The Tu-22M carries a respectable bomb load and can fly at a maximum speed of Mach 1.88. Interestingly, it has a twin-barreled 23mm cannon in the tail that is remotely controlled. The introduction of the Tu-22M in the early 1970s was an odd time for supersonic bombers, as the superiority of ICBMs was widely recognized. Despite the Tu-22M's technical obsolescence, continuous upgrades to radar and electronics, combined with improved air-to-surface missiles, have kept the Tu-22M platform relevant. Number 3. Tu-160 Blackjack. The Tu-160 is truly a beast of an aircraft with several firsts and world records to its name. Visually similar to the Tu-22M or the American Rockwell B-1 Lancer, the Tu-160 was the last strategic bomber designed by the Soviet Union. Also known as the Blackjack, it is the heaviest bomber in service in any country and tops out at Mach 2.05. In contrast to the B-1 Lancer, the Blackjack is more of a standoff weapons platform rather than a traditional bomber, although its large weapons bays allow it to carry a payload of 88,000 pounds and allows the delivery of conventional, precision, and nuclear munitions. The Blackjack is the only Soviet bomber designed without any defensive weapons. Again, upgrades to radar and targeting, along with the restart of airframe production in 2019, is keeping the Blackjack airborne, probably for many more years to come. Number 4. Tupolev PAK-DA. Although still under development, the PAK-DA will undoubtedly be Russia's deadliest bomber. Once fielded, the PAK-DA will eventually replace both the Tu-160 supersonic bomber and the earlier Tu-95. PAK-DA is essentially a next-gen long-range stealth bomber, similar to the Northrop Grumman B-2 Spirit bomber. Like the B-2, the PAK-DA will probably have a flying wing design, although this is only known from promotional material. No known prototypes currently exist. This would be the first truly Russian bomber, not simply a legacy Soviet design or improvements upon them. The first PAK-DA prototype flight was delayed from 2019 to sometime in the 2021 to 2023 timeframe. As already pointed out, upgraded variants of the Tu-160 are currently conducting flight trials, so it will likely be some time before we have any photos or more concrete info on Russia's first true stealth bomber.
Like the original Tu-160, which is capable of speeds of greater than Mach 2.0, the new Blackjack is designed primarily as a cruise missile carrier that would launch its nuclear payload from standoff ranges. New production versions of Russia's Tu-160M2 Blackjack supersonic strategic bomber are scheduled to enter production in 2022. The Russian Air Force is expected to order between 30 and 50 of the new version of the venerable Soviet-era cruise missile carrier. The original Tu-160 was the Soviet Union's last strategic bomber program before its 1991 collapse. We are concluding R&D work in 2021 and starting from 2022 we are beginning the serial production of these machines, United Aircraft Corporation President Yuri Slyozer said in an interview with Russia 24 TV channel according to the Moscow-based TASS news agency. We are discussing the exact figure with the customer. I believe their number will range from 30 to 50 machines. The bombers will likely be built in batches of 2 to 3 per year in Kazan. Unlike many of Russia's other high-profile defense projects, the Tu-160M2 is very real and very capable. It's a perfectly capable bomber with upgrades, Michael Kaufman, a fellow at the Woodrow Wilson International Center's Kennan Institute and expert on Russia's military told the National Interest. It makes complete sense and indicates that the PAC-DA stealth bomber is a pipe dream while the real plan is Tu-160 modernization. It also shows that Russia is committed to maintaining the air leg of its nuclear triad. Russian sources agreed with Kaufman's assessment of the Tu-160M2 program. Vasily Kashin, a senior fellow at the Center for Comprehensive European and International Studies at Moscow's Higher School of Economics said that work on the new blackjacks is already underway. This one will really be built, as I understand, Kashin told the National Interest. There is some actual work underway and they are going to build up to 50 of them. Like the original Tu-160 which is capable of speeds of greater than Mach 2.0, the new blackjack is designed primarily as a cruise missile carrier that would launch its nuclear payload from standoff ranges. The new blackjacks are going to be practically a new design under the hood with completely new avionics, propulsion and even airframe modifications. As such, the aircraft will be given a secondary precision-guided munitions capability. They are primarily cruise missile carriers with a secondary ability for precision bombing, Kashin said. They are expected to have deep upgrades, including avionics, engines and even the airframe. The new Tu-160M2 program will be part of Russia's new state armament program which emphasizes strategic systems. The MOD Ministry of Defense is discussing the state armaments program and greater emphasis will be placed on funding air and space defense, strategic nuclear forces, high-tech weapons and all manner of unmanned systems, Samuel Bendit, a Russian military affairs analyst at the Center for Naval Analysis told the National Interest. This state armaments program takes place between 2018 to 2025. The Tu-160M2 will likely be a formidable addition to the Kremlin's arsenal when it is built. Ultimately, in the case of the new blackjack, it's not a question of if it will be built, rather it's a matter of when. Hypersonic missiles are making Russia's Tu-160 bombers deadlier than ever. Here's what you need to remember: a long-range bomber that can potentially carry either slow but long-range cruise missiles, or shorter-range but extremely fast ballistic missiles, will complicate Western missile defenses that must prepare to stop multiple threats. Russia's Tu-160 strategic bombers may be armed with hypersonic ballistic missiles. The Russian military is studying whether to arm the Tu-160 NATO code name Blackjack with the Kh-47M2 Kinzhal dagger, a nuclear-capable missile with an estimated range of 1,200 miles and a speed of up to Mach 10. If true, it would vastly extend the Blackjack's target reach. The possibility of deploying Kinzhal missiles on Tu-160 aircraft is being considered, said Russian news agency TASS, quoting an unidentified source in the defense industry. The work on this option is due to be completed this year, the source said. The supersonic Blackjack wouldn't be the first Russian aircraft to be armed with the Kinzhal, an air-launched version of the ground-based, nuclear-capable Iskander ballistic missile. In 2018, Russian officials announced the missile had been fitted to the MiG-31 fighter NATO code name Foxhound, a descendant of the Cold War MiG-25 Foxbat. Currently, a squadron of MiG-31K aircraft armed with hypersonic missiles is on experimental combat duty in Russia's southern military district, TASS said. This was soon followed by tests of the Kinzhal on the Tu-22M3 Backfire, a Cold War supersonic bomber that has shorter range but faster speed than the Tu-160, the world's largest operational bomber. The Blackjack has a range of around 8,000 or 9,000 miles, though on one occasion it flew for 11,000 miles and stayed aloft for 23 hours. Arming the Tu-160 with Kinzhals is interesting on several levels. First, The bomber is already armed with subsonic Kh-55 cruise missiles, with about a 1,600-mile range, and the newer Kh-102, which has an estimated range of more than 3,000 miles. The Kinzhal ballistic missile would appear to have shorter legs than the older cruise missiles, but much greater speed. That's important from the perspective of Russia, which has been aggressively developing hypersonic faster than Mach 5 missiles out to fear that older subsonic or supersonic weapons are vulnerable to being shot down by U.S. anti-missile defenses. The Kinzhal is designed to penetrate missile defenses and destroy critical theater-level installations such as command centers, though it could also be used as an anti-ship missile. A long-range bomber that can potentially carry either slow but long-range cruise missiles, or shorter-range but extremely fast ballistic missiles, will complicate Western missile defenses that must prepare